Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? Hope that you're doing well wherever you are in the world today. I'm very excited to be back with another episode of my great friend, Sage, working here. Sage, what's going on? How are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
I'm so good. You are the first person in the brand new studio.
Love it and feel very honored. Thank you.
I'm super excited to have you here. It's been a long time coming, actually. You and I have tried to do this for almost probably
A couple years now. Yeah. I'm trying to remember where we first met. It must have been a Growth Con.
It was probably a Cardone thing.
Yeah.
You're deep in the 10X style, obviously.
Yep. Little 10X health representation here.
Yeah. It's really funny because when I kind of rewind a lot of my journey over the course of the last few years, like if I would not have tried to, I was doing this thing called funnel.
Okay.
Effectively, you find somebody's book or advertising, go through their entire, like how are their email systems, how are their newsletters, how is their fulfillment and their delivery, just a better experience to my customers who are part of Think Unbroken. And Grant's book landed on my table, and I was like, to read this. I read that book at liturgy.
Which book? He's got so many. Oh, nice. Yeah. Good one.
So before we get into all that, because obviously we're going to talk and go deep into health care tremendously about, especially considering always have the best health, which is a lot right. Hey,
yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your backstory?
So so Gary Brecka, my fiance and I, and my partner, we started a wellness clinic in Naples, Florida, a little tiny clinic called Streamline Medical Group. And funny enough, we were introduced to Grant Cardone through a friend of ours, Alex Morton, who was going to invest in his real estate fund. And he told Grant, he had had such a great experience with us, with his health and his family and everything. He told Grant, I'll invest this money if you meet with these guys that I met. And Grant was like, I got doctors hanging on trees, like why I don't need anybody else telling me what to do. But he's like, fine, I'll meet with him. I'll give him 10 minutes. And Gary went over and, kind of gave him the spiel, and we ended up getting labs on Grant. And within, we always tell people give us 10 weeks to really help us change you and follow the protocol. But within 2 weeks, I think he called us back and was like, holy cow, like I feel incredible. What do you have me on? So, that was sort of the start of the journey with Grant. And, I wonder did you go to the growth conference at the Marlins Stadium?
No, I did.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you didn't know yet. So we launched in like a month and a half, we launched the 10X health system, which at the time was just 4 products in a box that, we basically created a company in like a month and a half to get ready for this growth con. And that's what launched it. Grant we probably had 500 clients at the time, if that, and he put almost 3,500 in our funnel.
Fuck your company.
The company.
Everything.
It kind of crushed us for a little bit there. But he stuck with us, and he was like, listen, that didn't work out, but we still treated his family, still referred clients. We would do 10X events here and there. And eventually he was like, we really need to do something together, like something real. So he had gone into business with Brandon Dawson, and they had Cardone Ventures together. And we saw at that point how we could grow and scale the business in the right way. We had tried here and there to do it ourselves, and it's not an easy thing to do by yourself. So we joined forces and officially created the 10X Health System. And we went from, that was in September 2021. We went from 8 employees. We're almost at 80 employees. I think the number was 78 yesterday. So we've, almost 10x'd ourselves and we're just skyrocketing. We're looking to franchise across the country. We have all of these genetic tests that we're doing, blood testing, IV therapy, just incredible outcomes for so many more people than we were able to service and take care of on our own. So,
in a former life, in my early 20s, worked for Fortune 10 insurance.
Right.
But here's what's really fascinating about health care in America. It's not health care.
It's sick care.
It's sick care.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember once, I've ever said this story. I was sitting in my office wearing khakis, fucking kind of guy to wear khakis, but I'm like chasing money and I don't really know better. And I'm early 20s. And this woman calls and she says, "Hey, I need your help." This is pre-Obama, right? So you exclude conditions that were pre-existing. You didn't have to write policies. I'm licensed in every state, so I know all the rules, all the things. And this woman calls me one day. She goes, "I still have you help." And Sage, I was like, I literally cannot help.
Yeah.
This company will not offer you anything. She says to me, "You're like the seventh company called. The state can't help up. Like, what do I do? My kid's dying." And next day I quit that.
I don't blame you.
And it was so much about like recognizing the truth of the society that we live in, where it's like, you have got to become incredibly responsible for your own health and services. Even though we would love to think this country, and I love America. Let me phrase that. This is the best country in the world, period. No questions asked.
Agreed.
But they do not give a shit about your health. And so you must become responsible. We'll look at countries like Canada and Great Britain, Australia, and say, well, they have a great healthcare system. Like,
But they don't.
Yeah, if you want to wait for 37 years.
Yeah, you break your arm and it's like 3
Exactly.
months until you can get surgery.
Totally. And
Doesn't
so
make sense.
a big part of my healing journey, as you know, I was 300 pounds a day, drinking in the worst health humanly possible. So I realized the importance. And I know you had your own experience with health that kind of shuttled you down this path. You share that because I think that it'll help a lot of people understand the importance of like really getting into understanding your body.
So Gary and I had owned the company for 2 years at this particular point. It was like right before COVID hit and the world was shutting down. We had been together in our relationship for 5 years, almost 5 years. So obviously we know each other very well. And it was November 2019. I remember it very clearly. I went to CVS or Walgreens and was getting my daughter some gummy vitamins. And I see this, line of all these other women's ultra multivitamin gummy vitamins. And I was like, yeah, I'll just grab a pack too. I never took any multivitamins. I didn't ever really feel a reason to. But I was like, well, just in case I'm missing something, it'd be good to have, a little extra vitamins in my system. So I grabbed this bottle, grabbed hers. Thank God I grabbed a good bottle for her, but I didn't grab a good bottle for myself. And that was sort of the start of this journey of figuring out what was wrong. And it seems crazy to think it would all go back to a simple multivitamin. But over the course of the next 4 months, November, December, January, and February, I slowly turned into a crazy person. I had massive anxiety. I think I've always had anxiety on and off my whole life. I just didn't fully recognize it. And also would blame those moments on something. Oh, I feel this way because of that. We're running a small business together. Yeah, exactly. Like I'm worrying about finances. I'm worrying about payroll. I'm worrying about employees. I blamed a lot of things on Gary. Exactly. So, but during that 4-month period of taking this stupid multivitamin, the anxiety was just through the roof. Like I couldn't control it. I couldn't manage it. I wasn't sleeping at night. I sunk into a deep depression, and I had my daughter. So she was 12, 11 at that time. There were days where, and it's like hard for me to talk about, but there were days that the only reason that I got out of bed was remembering I have a daughter I have to stick around for. I can't just go away. But there were days where I had suicidal thoughts for the first time in my whole life. I'd never felt that low, ever before. And I have had other bad times in my life, but I couldn't pinpoint why I felt like that. Why can't I get out of bed? Why is it such a struggle? And it finally led to a full-blown panic attack. For the first time. I'd never had a panic attack before. It scared me so bad I thought I was gonna have to go to the hospital. My heart, I just like nothing felt right. I thought I was having a heart attack. I ended up on the ground, crying my eyes out over something that just didn't even really make sense. And that's when Gary was like, I don't know what has happened to you, but we have to figure this out. So at that moment, literally I'm on the ground, like crying. He shoved the Q-tip in my mouth because the gene test that we do is a cheek swab. So he cheek swabbed me right there. The next day I had my blood pulled. I had a full LabCorp panel pulled. I had a full cellular nutrition assay test done, and then I had this gene test. And when all the results came back, it was literally right when COVID shut down. So there was a period of 2 weeks that we kind of had to close the business, weren't sure what was going to go on. And so we were at home, and it was honestly the perfect time for us because it gave us a chance to take a deep breath and focus on ourselves. We were so worried about the business and so worried about other patients that we weren't really focusing on us and what was going on with me. And I thank Gary every day for like sitting down and researching it and figuring it out. But what we saw is that, for one thing, that the LabCorp blood test, we measured my B12 levels, and they were sky high, through the roof, couldn't even be measured. And then, but then at the cellular one, at a cellular level, I was almost completely deficient in B12. And so that's when the light bulb went off for Gary, and he was like, you're taking in a form of B12, but your body is not converting it and using it. And so it shows like that you're taking it in, but your cells aren't actually using it. It's just not processing in your system. And so that's where the gene test came in play. And we realized it was all about methylation. And basically what happened is I'm allergic to cheap forms of B12. I'm allergic to cheap forms of B9. And if I was taking in that stupid multivitamin, the cheap B12 called cyanocobalamin, which is cyanide-based B12, it's synthetic. And then I was taking in high doses of folic acid, which is vitamin B9 in its synthetic cheap form. So I can have methylcobalamin or hydroxycobalamin, which are natural forms of B12, and I can have folate, 5-methylfolate, which is a natural form of B9, but I can't have the cheap forms. And that's what was in that multivitamin. And then on top of that, I was drinking emergency packets every day, which has cyanocobalamin. Then I'd have maybe an energy drink, like a 5-Hour Energy or Monster energy drink, which, they're all terrible for you. But, when you're not sleeping at night and you need something to get you through the day and you're sick of coffee. But that had cyanocobalamin in it. So I'm taking in like heavy doses of these cheap forms of vitamins, and it turned me into a crazy person. And I'm telling you, the second I stopped taking the vitamin and all of those processed, drinks and foods and things, I was also eating bagels and cereal and, all these carbs that has been sprayed with folic acid because our government decided to spray folic acid on our grain source back in 1993. So all of that enriched and fortified foods I can't process. And as soon as I cut all of that stuff out, I immediately felt better. And then once I added in the right ingredients and the right raw materials that I was deficient in, I mean, a world of difference. And I've never looked back. I haven't ever had a suicidal thought since. I've never had a panic attack since. And honestly, even if I have anxiety, I know how to manage it better. So before we got on this podcast, I even took my vitamins before because I was like, just in case I get nervous, it like calms me down. So there's a tremendous piece to this. And that's when I knew, if I can fix this in myself and manage it, we've got to get this out to the world. So that was a big reason of joining, Grant Cardone and Brandon Dawson and Cardone Ventures to do 10X Health System, because I was like, we couldn't get this message out to enough people. And that's really the goal.
And I mean, look at that. And I would have to, let's go into it. There's probably a space at a time where you're like, am I crazy?
Yeah.
Did something break? Like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah. It's awful.
And when I was in my late 20s, I was having 5 panic attacks.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it was crippling. Yeah. I couldn't do anything. My businesses collapsed. My health was horrid.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, like, when I changed I read this book called
Oh yeah.
And that book changed my life and started me down this path of health in a way, because where I came from growing up in the Midwest, it was like not uncommon to drink and smoke, go to the bar and order pizza all the time. And I would eat chocolate cake literally for breakfast.
Oh my gosh.
Not understanding or knowing implications of poison that the American system.
So true.
I mean, you go look at the health pyramid right now.
Oh my God,
it's
like, joke.
Fuck our son. Like, what are we talking about right now, Sage? Like, I look at this and this is insanity.
I thought it was a joke when I saw it come out. When Joe Rogan posted it, I researched it, and I was like, this has to be a joke. And you can see the companies that paid to be on there because it's literally saying frosted mini wheats and Lucky Charms. I'm like, okay,
Those are
Kellogg's or
grass-fed beef
whatever.
and eggs, and you're like,
Yes,
"What are you talking about?"
it's
And
insane.
but here's what's so interesting, like, I always come back to this idea that we live in the matrix.
Yeah.
Now, literally, you wouldn't know because 'cause we're in the matrix, right? But from a hypothetical standpoint, you look at this and go, "Why are we being set up for massive failure all the time?" And there's a level of control that is happening in the world around what you eat, what you consume, social media, everything, and it's like, you have to realize you have to unplug yourself from this. But it is your imperative responsibility to be the one responsible for yourself.
Exactly.
And so when I come across people like you and Gary and I mean, who are trying to get information, here's what's really fascinating. In that period of time, you're struggling. The first thought for most Americans, I should go to the doctor and get on an SSR.
Yep. Get a pill.
Go
Get a
and
pill to fix it.
And what I've come to discover, and look, I've even tried them myself. I will say this, there's always room for pharmaceutical intervention under the right circumstances.
Hmm.
But generally speaking, the right circumstances are very, very small,
Right.
right? A small opportunity that they would actually need the thing that the doctor prescribed. And I remember working in this insurance company and seeing not only the claims come through medications and people at my age at the time, my early 20s on 4 meds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what in the fuck are you
Unnecessary.
talking?
Yeah.
And then you get into these studies around food, and it's like they are sponsored. You go down the chain long enough, and look, this is not conspiracy.
No.
So let's be very clear. The writing is on the wall. At the end of the day, people in this country, one pharmaceutical company, corporation, they want you to be sick because they make money.
I saw an advertisement the other day where it was an ad that said, if you're already on an SSRI, an antidepressant, but it's still just not working enough for you, here's another pill you can take. And then when it lists off all the side effects of that second pill, it's insane. I'm like, why would you take the chance to fix one thing and then end up with 5 more problems? And then you got to take 5 more pills to solve those side effects. It's like, it doesn't make any sense at all. And it's sad that they've already admitted that antidepressants don't work. And the whole thing is that if the solution to depression is to have higher levels of serotonin, you would think that the solution to the pill would be to raise serotonin levels. But they don't. They just take what little serotonin you have and they spread it out. So why not look for a solution that helps add serotonin into your bucket? And that solution is diet and vitamins and supplementation, the right raw materials. And it's and it sounds too simple. And a lot of times, I get a lot of shit on social media because they're like, by the way, for all of America to know, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical expert.
I'm also not a doctor.
Right. Let's just throw that out there because they're going to be like, she's not a doctor. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And listen, if, digging deep into the science, you're right. I don't understand that piece, but I understand what happened to me. Yeah. And I know that depression. Here's another example. This just happened 2 weeks ago. Now that we're, getting a little bit more recognized, and especially Gary is, being noticed for his knowledge in this wellness space, a lot of people send us stuff because they want us to try it out. They want us to promote it. They want to be a part of 10X Health, which is amazing. So he tests the crap out of everything. So we turn into guinea pigs, basically. So this product arrives, he puts it in a cup, he throws the water in it, and he's like, try it. I should know better. And he should know better too, to have read the ingredients and make sure. But I'm kind of in this like naive assumption that if you're going to bring 10X Health something, you've heard at least somewhere that we say, do not take folic acid, do not take cyanocobalamin. Those are like, if I can just get 2 words in everybody's head of things to avoid, those are the 2 ingredients.
And quickly, it's on the back of the label.
It's on the back of the label.
It's in everything.
It's in everything. It's disgusting. And this is how corporations are killing us. And so they send this product. And the funny thing is they put a good B12. I think they put in hydroxycobalamin, which is like a very expensive form of B12. Usually, if you're going to see a good form in natural form, it's methylcobalamin. Hydroxy is much more expensive and harder to source. So it was weird that it was like a really good B12, but then they still cheaped out on the folate and they put folic acid. I didn't pay attention. I drank the stupid drink. And then I look at the ingredients and I'm like, oh my God, I just broke all my rules, by doing this. I almost made myself go puke because I knew I was going to be affected by it. And Gary was like, you'll be fine. It wasn't that much. And don't worry about it. Da, da, da. So I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll be okay. So I let it go. Next day, couldn't get out of bed. I was so depressed. I was like, I wanted the room dark. I didn't want anybody to talk to me. I didn't answer my phone all day. This is like the middle of the week. It's like a Wednesday. I got a million emails, a million phone calls, a million things to do. I couldn't do any of it. But in my mind, at least I knew this is what happened. I had folic acid. I'm depressed now. It's going to be out of my system in 24 hours. I just got to, just sleep this off, basically. So I slept. I watched Netflix. I ate salads, grilled chicken, took my vitamins, and the next day I woke up fine. That's how I know how big of a deal this is. And if I can just explain that to people and have them recognize it in themselves, what did you put in your mouth in the last 24 to 48 hours that is affecting your mental state? It's not just about your stomach hurting when you eat something you can't process. What did you put in your mouth that is affecting you up here? And when you start to look back on it, and you recognize it, then you'll go, man, I didn't realize that pizza or that mac and cheese I ate, that's what's making me feel cruddy. And so if everybody paid attention, then we'd have a much better world. But yes, they have to list it on the ingredient label. So you got to flip the box around and really pay attention to what's on there.
When I think about that and the space in which you pay attention, getting inside of your body is incredible, especially if you've been sick.
True.
And I remember, so I ended up getting a few different health issues. I got CO, I got C. diff, I was hospitalized, like on death's bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had gotten where sick was like my norm.
Yeah.
And it sucked. And I'm running companies, doing all the things, I'm suffering every day.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking, because here's what I think it is. Like it's almost learned behavior in some way. My grandmother was always, mom was always, neighbors, or everybody's always sick all the time. I was like, I guess you're just sick.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it felt like to feel normal. And it wasn't until I really got deep to trying to understand my body that it started to make sense. You could lay it out on the table and I couldn't go, wait a second, if I eat these gummy bears, die 40 and die 7 and high fructose corn syrup, this nature, I'm not going to feel good. And the mouth pleasure that you get out of it, like, that's great. It's like the best dopamine.
Yep.
Like, this is the greatest shit. And then the next day, I'm like, I can't function. I can't think. I can't get out of bed. And it's like, but we keep torturing ourselves.
Yeah.
And I take it back to this. I go, if you walked into a room and every single time you walked in that room, you got punched in the face. The first,
very good way to put it.
First time you walked in, you'd be like, what just happened?
I don't want to do that again.
And the second time we're dumb, we're human.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, at least 2 times.
So the second time you walk in, you're going to be like, okay, hold on, what's going on? You're going to poke your head in. And the third time, you're not going to go.
Yeah.
And I wish that people would understand, like, you have to keep going this path. So I want to rewind again and go back into this. So you're in this place a few years, you're on this feeling the effects, you're on the impact of it. People want to quit.
Yeah.
Was it really as simple as stopping that vitamin that changed your life, or were there other interventions you had to bring into play? Because I think people who are suffering from anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, all things that I've also experienced, obviously, they go, is it really that easy?
I know. And I never want to say that, oh, this is just so easy. You stop taking this or you start taking that and, oh, everything will be happy and glorious. I never, ever want to put that out there. But I do believe that getting my protocol right, because it wasn't just about not taking the multivitamin. I started to recognize, okay, I have been having some bad anxiety for a while now. And I just always found a reason to blame it. Again, I'm blaming it on starting a business and not really knowing what I'm doing. I'm blaming it on working with my spouse who, I love and adore, but can drive me crazy. So of course, oh, well, now I'm angry or I'm upset or whatever because of something he did. Well, it wasn't that stuff. It was more internal. The things I was getting upset about, because a lot of this genetic stuff, it's not just anxiety and depression. There's an anger piece to it. And I realized I would get like so mad about something, and it could be over the dumbest things. Like, the kids left their socks in the middle of the hallway again, or didn't do the dishes like I asked them to do. And all of a sudden I'm just biting everybody's heads off. And that wasn't me. I was like, why am I being like this? This is not who I am. And so it did take a lot of like internal, okay, I got to really work on myself. And so that's where I started to go to therapy. But still, like, yeah, I can work on all these things. I can do breathing techniques. I can, talk myself into a positive space with affirmations and all of that stuff. But ultimately, it was deep inside that I had to correct. And those are all great things. Yoga and meditation and all of those things are great things to calm the mind. But ultimately, what truly fixed it is giving my body the raw materials it was deficient in. And so when I did this gene test and we only look at 5 actionable genes. I don't care what your hair color is, your eye color, if you got detached earlobes. I'm just looking for 5 actionable genes that tell us, did you get the gene mutation from one parent or both? And that will help us determine how deficient you are in certain raw materials. So, for instance, the MTHFR gene, we call it the motherfucker gene.
I have that.
You do, huh? Welcome to the club. 44% of us in the population, and I think that number is higher. Yeah, I think so. But about, 50% of us have this genetic mutation. And for me, I got it from both my parents. So I'm severely broken. You're red too. So we're severely broken. It's not functioning at all.
Explain what that is.
Okay.
People don't know.
Good call. So when you have this genetic mutation, it means that I guess the easiest way to say is we are allergic to folic acid. So if you take crude oil out of the ground, you can't just stick it right in your gas tank. It has to be refined into gasoline before it can go into the gas tank, and then the car and the engine recognizes that fuel source. It's the same concept with methylation. Methylation is the process by which we take in a raw material and convert it or methylate it into a usable form that our body recognizes. So in the case of B12, you can't just take B12 in and then your body just knows what to do with it, and it's, and then all of a sudden it's energy. It has to be refined, it has to be methylated into the right form of energy so your body can use it. So there's a whole lot more sciencey stuff to this. If anybody is scientific, they're going to be like, that. Maybe that's a terrible explanation. But for us that aren't scientists, it's English, It's just simple way to explain it. And you and I are deficient in vitamin B9. It sounds too simple, but we are. And that gene can only function at 100% if we have 5-methylfolate in our system. So you can get it through food sources like leafy greens, and there's like a whole long list of foods that you can find, like legumes and nuts and seeds and things like that. You can find that on the report that we produce after somebody gets a gene test. And because I always want to tell people, I'm not trying to sell you our multivitamin. I'm really just saying that, yes, a multivitamin is easier to take if it has the right raw ingredients, but you can also get it through your diet. So you just have to take in the right form of folate. So one big thing that I think a lot of women recognize when they hear folic acid is if they've ever been pregnant or trying to get pregnant or whatever, their gynecologist, OBGYN, is going to tell them take high doses of folic acid, because they recognized again, this all goes back to the 90s, where they're like, you got to take high dose of folic acid when you're pregnant because it prevents neural tube defects in pregnant women. And so they're like, oh, let's give this to everybody. Let's spray the grain source. And because then everybody's eating bread and pasta and rice and cereal. And that's when Cheerios, you started to see the labels on like Cheerios boxes say, fortified and enriched with all these vitamins and minerals. So they were making it sound like, hey, we're giving, even in Pop-Tarts, this is healthy food for your kids. So everybody starts whacking back all this stuff. And all of a sudden, the anxiety, depression, ADD, ADHD, everything goes on the rise. And everybody's like, oh, well, now we got to create pills for that. So now we have Adderall and Vyvanse and Ritalin, and we're, pumping our kids full of antidepressants and anxiety meds. I was an 80s baby. None of my friends had ADHD.
Take your ass outside.
Just go outside and run around.
You're not even allowed in the house.
No, but so there's...
But I slept outside.
Even in class, though, like, I don't remember having wacky kids, like, running around, like, couldn't focus or anything. Like, I don't know. I just don't remember that stuff. It's kind of the same with the peanut allergy thing. Nobody had a peanut allergy, and now everybody has one.
Well, we're weak.
Yeah, that's what we call. What did we do to our food?
Well, I think that is what it is. What we do to our food, and at it, and you kind of measure what it is that we put in our body basis. And it's like, literally you are what you eat. And that is
Yes.
one of those things that sounds so just regular, like status.
Right.
You are what you eat. But it's so true. Like, you know, as well as I do, like if I go and I eat pizza,
You're
the
gonna
rest of my day is
feel
over.
right.
Like,
You're
it's
gonna feel
over.
like
I'm
shit.
done.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, like a
I,
food coma.
I literally, okay, I will literally, because I love pizza.
Hmm.
Once a week, I have pizza. On Sunday afternoon, I'm like, I know I'm not doing anything the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And I make it myself, gluten-free the whole
Oh,
time.
good. Okay, so it's
Right?
not
Well, I have a gluten
terrible.
allergy. I always have. But I ignored it as a kid because everybody was like, oh, no, you're fine. It's no
Yeah.
problem that you're like throwing up all the
Oh,
flesh.
no.
Like, it's,
Yeah.
we were more resilient then.
Yes, that's true.
And so, you know, I think that when you look at it, and I don't want to harp on the idea that people should have to go and eat a certain way. Like, I
Right.
have a very strict diet. I'm really more carnivore probably than any days.
Mhm.
But it's like, you have to be cognizant
Exactly.
and not to trust. I know it's hard because we want to believe that the government,
But they do not.
they don't.
No.
And so
They're making
if
money
you're-
off of
if you're
us.
struggling with anxiety, depression, and you're on SRIs, and you're like, it's not working close with this diet.
Mhm.
When I was a kid, and here's what's interesting: as a kid, I always had fast,
Really? Yeah.
and I couldn't.
Mhm.
It's something I've learned to control. It's something I've learned to exercise and right things. Okay.
Mhm.
And so I'm not sitting here saying like it's going to go away because
Exactly. No, I agree. You
Good.
still have to manage it, but it does help. Do you find that when you take the folate pills, are you on the protocol? Like, do you have all your vitamins and
Yeah.
everything? So, like for me, especially like on a Monday morning, I'm like, I don't even open my email until I take my vitamins,
Yeah.
and then give it 20 minutes, because then I will be in a calm state to, have the onslaught attack of all the problems that are going to come my way that I got to solve. Whereas if I open up my email and I haven't had my vitamins, it kind of sends me into a panic. Like, oh my God, I have so many things to do and I can't get all these things done. And I get all nervous about it. And whereas as long as I have my folate, I take my multivitamin, like I feel good, I'm ready to attack the day. And I don't think I went back to that story about, yes, it's about changing your diet, but it's also about getting the right raw materials. It took me 3 tries to get my protocol right. So I always tell, whenever I do a lab review with someone, I always share my story, because I think it helps people. I always say I'm very colorful, because I've got all the breaks except one. But even though that one that I have is green and should be functioning at 100%, ultimately it's the sandbag pass. I'm sorry I don't have like a example of it, but for people that haven't ever taken this test before, there's these 5 genes, and when you start at the bottom one, it's like a sandbag pass to the next one. So if in our case, that first one, the MTHFR, is not operating properly, and it's operating at 0% or maybe 10% at best. So if that guy's supposed to pass 100 pounds of sand to the next guy, and he can only pass between 0 and 10 pounds of sand, well, then the next guy can't do his job, and then so on and so forth up the chain. It's a domino effect. So even when people have green breaks, there's green, yellow, and red. Green is that neither parent passed that mutation on. Yellow is that one parent passed it on and it's operating at about 40% at best. And then red is both parents passed it on at 0 to 10% functioning. So, but if you've got a bunch of reds, then the whole chain is broken unless you correct the function of those genes. And you can do that every day by adding in the right raw materials, whether it's through your diet or through supplementation. So what I did is I had to kind of play with the vitamins and supplements, and it took me 3 tries to get it right. And even as recently as like 6 months ago, I added something new to my protocol that was like, oh my God, I feel even better. Like I thought I felt really good and I was on a great protocol. And then I added one new thing. Again, I pigged myself. And then I was like, wow, I feel amazing. Like all of a sudden I'm clearer in the morning. I'm happier in the morning. I can get through the day so much easier. It was just like a game changer for me. So I do think that people have to pay attention to things. And that's kind of what we're here for with 10X Health, is to help people not just guess. Don't just guess what your body needs. Don't just like take St. John's wort or CMOS because you heard about it on a podcast or a commercial or your trainer or something.
This is the number one mistake of my life.
Yes, you're just like, I'll take this
and
take this and take that.
I remember at one point I was taking roughly, I'll give you a dollar amount, not a pill amount. I was taking about $500 a month
just in
It just
supplementation,
random ass
random stuff. Yeah.
because I was like, oh, but they said that does this and this,
Yes.
and I was like, why do I feel good?
Yes.
It's like,
Well, 'cause
I wonder why.
sometimes you're doubling up on stuff and you don't realize it. And then some things are counteracting each other, or you're not taking it at the right time or with the right kind of food, or there's just so much to it. If you have a game plan, you have somebody that's knowledgeable to put together a game plan for you specifically, that's when it works.
And that's what's so interesting. I think about it like this. If you go and buy a car, you know exactly what's documents, you sign it, you probably don't read the agreement, you do it anyway, but at least you have something.
Yes.
Right? With our health,
Right.
like you can go do your annual checkup, which I would argue personally, I don't think nearly enough. Like I do blood work. I do as many scans and tests as I possibly can at the time. IV drips the whole night because I want to make sure I'm operating at a high level.
Right.
Because I personally am a type A overachiever psycho.
You're a comp T?
100%.
Yep. Are you red or yellow?
Red.
Oh, man.
And so I am constantly in
You're the
this
consummate overachiever profile. You hold yourself to such a high standard that you are disappointed. You could get 24 of 25 things done on a to-do list and be mad at yourself that you didn't get that 25th thing done.
And what I've literally had to one of the hardest things that I have in my life, and I think a lot of people do, especially, I come from the traumatic homeless kid, being an addict at 12 years old. Like, I mean, that really shaped me into being like, I have to rely on myself. I have to figure these things out. I got to drive forward at all times, figure it out. And then you add on patients, you add on all the other things, and it's like, I don't even know how to rest.
Yeah. Yeah. You're constantly going.
I'm like, when people are like, oh, I slept really well. I'm like,
what is that?
I'm like, I need 8 pounds of magnesium and melatonin to get those nights. And it's like, but I had to figure out, I had to understand why. Yeah. And I think that if you're an overachiever, there's nothing wrong.
No, it makes very successful people. And when I see a red comp T, meaning you got it from both parents, and it's not functioning.
Weird because they never achieved it.
So wild. Isn't that weird? Somehow, but they had to have been hyper-focused on something else. Drugs. Oh, yeah. So that's where, the AHCY, that gene break right below comp T, and it can be active even if it's green. It's a very rare one to have. So most people are green, but sometimes they're yellow. Red is like so incredibly rare, but I have a yellow AHCY. And so that one is like our addictive profile, where people are usually addicted to drugs, alcohol, but maybe it's a good addiction, like working out. For me, I'm a workaholic. Like, again, I don't know when to turn it off. Yeah. And but I think if you learn how to shift those behaviors into something positive, like work or helping people, I mean, that's what we do. It's hard for me to not answer a text message at 11 o'clock at night from a patient, because I want to help people. I want to steer them in the right direction. But it's hard to just turn it off and quiet our minds. I do have a trick for you though that might help. Tell me,
because I know there are people right now who are like,
yeah, exactly. Right? Tons of people relate to this stuff, and I think that's where the more that I share my story and say, and like you, hey, here is all the things that have gone wrong in my life, and this is how I'm solving it, and this is why I want to help people solve their things. Being that open and honest is what people relate to. I'm never going to get up here and be like, I'm perfect and everything I do is perfect. Not who I am. It's a dangerous place. I don't think I've ever been there. Although we're perfectionists because we're comp T people. And we hold ourselves to a high standard, and then we expect other people to be held to that standard as well. And then we find ourselves disappointed in people a lot. And so we're really good people to have on like a group project, because we're going to get like in college and high school, I was like, okay, you guys are all screwing this up. I'll just do it myself.
100%. If I'm not leading the group, I don't want to be in it.
I don't want to be in it. Yeah, we don't take micromanaging well. I don't like to be told what to do. Don't tell me what to do, because I'm like, teach me how to do it.
Like, guys, this is your genes. I'm giving everyone permission right now.
We're not trying to be a pain in the ass. We just sometimes okay, that's a good point. But I'm like, teach me, but as soon as I've got it down, just leave me alone and let me go do it myself. And I've taken personality tests the same way.
Every personality test. on planet Earth.
Crazy. And they're so spot. This genetic test is a personality test.
Agreed.
So just knowing, like, you're saying these little snippets and I'm like, oh, you got that gene break. You got that gene break. Like, I know where you're at. Where was I going with this? The trick. Okay. The secret to sleep. So I take so again, we are super deficient.
Talk to your doctor.
Oh yes, please talk to your doctor. I am not a medical professional. So Dr. Carrie Sarda is our medical director for 10X Health. She is phenomenal. She's been an OBGYN for 25 years, and 15 of those years plus, she's been practicing functional medicine. This woman is incredible. Her knowledge of being able to like look outside of normal medical practice is incredible. And so she is where a lot of this information is coming from, and me learning through my own struggles, learning what's worked for me. But she and I have spent, hours talking about this stuff, and she is obsessed about methylation, just like Gary and I. And so it was really awesome to like get somebody on board that really helped us understand it and learn from it from a, medical background. But okay, so my personal trick, and this is not medical advice, but my personal trick is you and I are very deficient in folate, the 5-methylfolate, because of that broken MTHFR gene. So at night, so I'll take a folate capsule in the morning, or it's in our 10X Health multivitamin that Gary and our medical staff, we formulated this great multivitamin that corrects the majority of those gene breaks if you're green or yellow. But if you're red, then you have to take additional things. So you and I have to take additional folate because there's not enough in that multivitamin to supplement us. So I will take a folate capsule at night before I go to bed. So I take my sleep formula, which is magnesium, melatonin, and theanine. We have a 10X sleep formula. And then I take a folate capsule. And I literally keep a bottle by my bed because it helps quiet the squirrels at night so I can sleep. And then inevitably, I'm a mom, I had a baby. So ever since I wake up at 4 a.m. because I got to go to the bathroom. So at 4 a.m., back in the day, I would wake up, I'd go to the bathroom, my mind would turn on, I'd start spinning and worrying about stuff that I can't control. So I'd have a list by my bed and I'd write down all the things that I was worrying about and thought, well, that'll help me go back to sleep. But ultimately, I was up from 4 to 6 every morning. And then I'd go back to sleep and think that sleeping from 6 to 8 could like make me function through the day, which it didn't. I was dead. So at 4 a.m., I will take another folate pill and it just quiets the mind. It's not a sleeping pill though. You could take it in the middle of, you could take it the first thing in the morning to help with the onslaught of emails or, things to help with your anxiety. But it just quiets the squirrels for me, calms me right down, and I go right back to sleep. So I know if I forget to take my folate, I was up till like 2 or 3 in the morning the other night and I was like, I fall asleep. And then I remembered, I was like, oh my gosh, it's because I ran out of my folate. I got to get another bottle. Yeah. And as soon as I started back on that routine, it works perfectly. So try that. I know.
Yeah, I'm the kind of person like when I wake up, it doesn't matter what time I'm up.
You're up and you just got to go.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I slept 4 hours.
It's just not enough. It's not enough. Yeah. So I'm the same way. So I'll go to bed at midnight and I'm up at 4 and then my brain turns on. I'm exhausted. I need more sleep, but my brain won't let me. I even, when I wasn't methylating properly, would have show tunes running through my head or a song on repeat, or I was laughing about this on another podcast. It was like Broadway show tunes. I'm like, I don't even go to Broadway shows. Like, why is this song in my head?
Yeah, it's wild to me what your brain will do of its own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. When it's functioning at its optimal state. And I think for a lot of people, we coming from a traumatic background made me want to be a high performer. Mm-hmm. Like once I started to navigate the better, like I could escape from a lot of the things that were part of my life into this place where my health became last.
Yeah.
Which was really interesting because it was like on paper, you look at my 20s, I'm making 150 grand a year working for a Fortune 10 company with no high school diploma,
which is phenomenal.
Which is almost impossible.
Yeah.
Right. I'm driving a $100,000 car. I have all these. My life is a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Like when really break down.
Yeah.
Because that thing about being hyper focused on the thing for me was chasing. Everything else went wayside. All my health, my relationships were so terrible.
Mm-hmm.
My friendships were awful. And I just kept thinking like, it's everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
right? Which was a really stupid
I've been
belief.
there.
And it wasn't until, and a lot of this, like I get it, accountability, like saying, actually the truth is, maybe it's not actually anyone's fault, but you have to take some responsibility because you're in this position now as a leader, and where it's like, if you continue to leverage all the reasons you're successful, you can even look at the Jimmy,
Mm-hmm.
right? You really could. I mean, you can always put a finger at something. This is the reason why. And you're allowed to do it.
Right.
I'm not going to take that away from you. But if you are one of these people, you're listening, you're a high performer, but there's areas of your life that you're sacrificing. I mean, what you guys have been able to build, there are sacrifices.
A lot.
I mean, you're in the process of trying to create 1,000 patients,
Yeah.
give people access to health. Like, you're climbing fucking.
Yeah.
And for some people, Mount Everest is entrepreneurship or business. It's navigating paying bills. It's getting the next job. It's being parents. It's a disease. Something is happening.
Something you're fighting.
You're chasing and you're climbing. Like, how do you? Health should be the, but it's not. Like, how do you navigate all the? You personally, how the hell do you navigate?
I couldn't. I mean, I look back on before I got this figured out, and like, how did I get through a day? I mean, I just struggled. And here's the thing, I'm a very healthy person. I kind of always have been. I've never really overeaten. I've never been, well, I can't actually say that. I did go to college. I had a study abroad program in Italy. And I left at 120 pounds and I came back at 160. Get this, I actually gained 40 pounds in 6 months, my study abroad program in 6 months. I came back and everybody's like, holy cow, you're fat. Like, my sister straight up just said, you're fat. Like, what happened to you? 40 pounds in 6 months, but pregnant with my daughter for 9-10 months. I only gained 30 pounds. So it was kind of comical. So I can laugh about it now because but it took 2 years to shed that off. And I moved to Denver, and that's probably what helped because people were so healthy in Denver. I know you lived in Denver for a while, but yeah, I think I was always like generally very healthy. And I tell people too, sometimes when they have this gene test and they have the genetic markers that should indicate that there's a lot more problems. And they're like, well, I don't really feel that, not so much. Like here and there, I've had that happen, but not really. Like, then you're accidentally correcting your methylation through your diet and what you're already taking. So it's awesome. I think that's fantastic. My sister, for instance, that she and her husband tested their whole family and their little girls, and they're just so uber healthy that they were just accidentally already correcting their kids' methylation. But you can see such a change that if they go to a birthday party and they've got pizza and cake, they come home and it's a complete disaster, total chaos. But now the older one, she's 8-9 years old, she's well aware of it. And she's aware that, Aunt Sage, she sat me down the other night and she goes, I went to a birthday party and everybody was having pizza and I knew I shouldn't have the pizza because I knew that the crust was going to make me feel bad. So she's like, I tried to just eat the pepperoni and the cheese, but I did have a couple bites of the crust. So just like justifying this whole thing to me. She's got massive anxiety, this one. And she's like, but then the birthday cake came out and it had Oreo cookies in it. And she was like, I thought if I just took a couple bites, it wouldn't be bad. I mean, this is her at 8-9 years old justifying just like we do. Oh, if I just have a little bit of this, it's not going to be that bad. Same with me having that stupid drink. Oh, maybe one drink of it won't be that bad. But she's like, but Aunt Sage, I felt terrible for, the whole next day. And it's because she cannot process that junk food. And so, but she recognizes it and she's like, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to, either bring my own food or I'll eat beforehand. And we had a whole conversation about, maybe next time you just have you bring your own separate cake for your friend's party, or you eat beforehand so you're not tempted to eat the pizza.
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, it is like, you're never going to catch me eating airplane. I'm not going to eat most things at restaurants. It's like, it's not working. Right? When you're trying to create something, I want to go into that again. You're trying to create this, there are things you give up, right? I think that people really struggle with.
Yeah.
And And for me, a lot of what I've had to give up are just the behaviors that don't towards the goal.
Right.
I was lucky enough to have time for my life for a very long time. And I had this powerful conversation. It was like, only do towards your goal.
I like it.
And I was like, that's so true.
Yeah.
That's health. That's dating, relationships. That's everything.
Exactly.
And so you have these goals and you guys are trying not only run a family, you're on the road more than probably anyone I know.
Yeah.
And I'm on the road all the time. You guys are on.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have to, what are the things taken off your plate or removed from so that you actually have the success that I think there's a stupid mentality in the world. People are like, you can have everything. You can have everything that you want if you're willing to give up all the
True.
So what is that like?
So it's, I would say like right off the bat, two things. So one thing about like the traveling and eating and what do we have to, give up and look out for? I haven't eaten. I really never, thank God my parents were good and never really fed us soda or fast food. So I don't crave any of that kind of stuff. But I've noticed that, so with all the traveling that we do, we're just constantly on the road. And I think your body adapts to having to eat crappy food like here and there. So as much as we were trying to eat healthy out, it's just inevitable that you're going to end up having to eat airport food or, grab, like I'm drinking my Starbucks coffee. It's not my favorite thing to drink because it's not organic, but I'm on the road and it's hard to find the things that you would do at home on the road. So then we spent a month at home, which felt like a vacation. And I ordered all organic food, all organic meats, pasteurized eggs, all this good, healthy stuff. My daughter has been, she's with us over here. She started a homeschool program in January because we were on the road so much and I wanted her to be with us and, go to these events and podcasts and meet all these cool people and learn all this stuff, and outside of a classroom. And so she's been helping, I've been teaching her how to cook. And my gosh, she's like amazing. Like she can look at a recipe, order the groceries, put the recipe together. I'm like, holy cow, somebody made me dinner. This is fabulous. But she's learning like how healthy all this stuff is. So we really ate clean for a solid 30 days. And then we went out to dinner at a really nice restaurant in Miami. And Gary and I came back and we were both sick as dogs that night. And then it was like 4 or 5 days later, we had to do another dinner out with some people. And again, came back home and we were sick as dogs. And I was like, okay, we're just going to have to learn to like either change up what we're ordering at the restaurant. Like if I order a salad and grilled chicken, I'm usually good. Watch what the salad dressing is. I know, but I'm learning that like, I mean, we never order stuff like mac and cheese and I'm not tempted for things like that. But even like if you order Brussels sprouts, you don't know what kind of oil they're frying it in or cooking it in, and that goes back to like I think it's a big seed oil thing now. We're kind of going down a rabbit hole of realizing all the seed oils that are in everything. And at restaurants, they don't change out the fryers. And I mean, I don't eat a whole lot of fried food, but regardless, if you're having something that's cooked, it's got junk in it. So I try to eat more like raw stuff and salads and grilled chicken kind of things to avoid that. But then the second piece that doesn't have to do with diet is not allowing negative behaviors to really take over my day. And I think that's, again, you and I, we've got these breaks that allow our minds to just overthink, overprocess, overworry. And I would allow negative behaviors to take over my day a lot. And I'm really learning to I just can't do it. Like I have to find the positive in things. So even if a problem's coming at me, I need to take a deep breath and say, okay, yes, maybe that is an issue. Maybe that is a problem, but how are we going to solve it? And then let's also look at all the really cool, positive things that are happening that trump the negative thing and change my mindset and change that shift in, how I get through my day. I find that I'm a lot happier that way. So I guess those are two random, very different things to answer your question.
It's easy to get trapped.
Yeah, it
I mean,
is.
it's everything.
It is.
You
And also stop watching the news because there's nothing I can do to change it. It may make me sound stupid that I don't know all the things that are going on, but it's all negative. It's horrible.
If you ask me what's happening right now,
you don't want to know. Every time I turn it on, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't.
And the reason why I take my
yeah, it's important.
It's so incredible because everything, even I did this kind of quasi-science myself recently. I love film.
Mhm.
Like, I'm a huge film person. The first legal job as a kid
Mhm.
was working at a Hollywood.
Oh, that's
And I
cool.
intentionally was like, Blockbuster would have had me.
Oh,
I'll never forget this. I had to
Okay.
take a personality test to get a job at Blockbuster, and they said I wasn't.
no
Yeah,
way.
at like 15. And I was like, okay.
So not because your age, but what was the personality?
I don't remember.
Did they
I mean,
ever
it was-
tell you? That's crazy.
And so like I do this test, and they literally reply in the email reply. They're like, "You're not qualified." Bro, videotapes. What are you talking about? What is this? Like,
Yeah.
and so anyway, I get this job at Hollywood Video. I'm in love with like, there's nothing better to me. So,
Mhm.
and that's held true to this day. My favorite respite. You can't get a hold of me during the day. It's because I'm out.
Oh, that's
right?
awesome.
Because I've taken
Because it's
few
cool.
hours.
Yeah.
That's my thing,
Because it
right?
turns that is the thing that will turn our minds off.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That is the phone off,
Mhm.
popcorn. Even though I know popcorn at the movie theaters too.
Yeah.
I'm doing it sometimes. It's gonna
You can
happen.
sneak it in a bag.
I do that. Like I'll make my own popcorn.
Awesome.
Anyway, I did this test, and I said, "What happens if I watch no action movies, no horror,
Mhm.
no thrillers for 30?"
Okay. It was better, huh?
And it was an incredible shift.
See, I'm gonna have to get my daughter to stop making me watch zombie movies.
Well, it's interesting because if you think about it, your brain doesn't know how to decipher reality. And so I did that, and suddenly I was like, so, because I'm being consumed,
Yeah.
and violent and suffering,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like real world hasn't,
Oh, I know.
right? And so I keep putting that in. These things, you have so much in front of every single.
Yeah.
And if you're like me, and I have a massively addictive person
Mm-hmm.
meetings, when you have a personality in your blood, in your bone, how do you navigate? For me, I know some people, I'm not addicted. I'm like, bro, if it weren't for the fact that I wanted to have a better life, I'd probably be
Yeah.
serious. That's just the nature.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are a person, you go and you do have all these markers, or addictive person, overachievers, high achiever, how do you navigate?
Well, I think a big piece, again, I'm going to go back to the supplement side. When people have addictive behaviors, there are supplements that can help control your homocysteine levels. So homocysteine can be measured in your blood. So that's how, like, if somebody comes to us and they get a blood test done, let's say they don't do the gene and the blood at the same time, and they do the blood test first, we measure homocysteine levels. So if those are off the charts, that's when we can say you're not methylating something properly. And then we recommend the gene test. Then also same thing. If they get the gene test done and they're super colorful and they've got a lot of breaks, then we recommend that they get the blood test done, because there are things you can see them really work together, because you can see thyroid problems, you can see high blood pressure, hypertension issues, hormone imbalances. So if you've got, a lot of times when I wasn't methylating properly, my thyroid went out of whack because it wasn't converting anymore T4 into T3 the right way. So if I had gone to a doctor, they would have put me on thyroid medication. My hormones were totally out of whack. I became estrogen dominant, like 700%. It was contributing to my crazy.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden I was like, had this band, I go from being skinny to having this band of like fluid in the front of my stomach that I'm like, well, where is this coming from? My pants aren't fitting. So that was estrogen dominance. There's just so many pieces to it besides just, the anxiety and depression. My OCD kind of went out of control. Not like OCD, like I flip light switches or things like that. I do count things, but I like things super organized. I don't like things out of place. You're probably very much the same way. Your place is very nice and organized. It makes me happy. This is so clean. And that's
my genes.
But it's in your genes. And it's funny because there's so much internal chaos that we crave external organization. But I think that the internal chaos can also get the best of people. And so back to the addiction part, I've met people that have gone to rehab like 9 times. I have this one guy that I met at an event, and he got up and spoke about his struggles and all his addictive behaviors and rehab 9 times. And I was like, please take this test. If you don't have this gene break, I'll pay for the test myself. And he did. And then once we put them on the right protocol, and a lot of it is, and again, I am not a medical expert, but things like glutathione, which is the mother of all antioxidants, that really helps. It cleans the liver, it flushes liver and toxins out, and that also helps balance homocysteine. So does TMG, something called TMG. It's all about, I don't know if you're taking SAMe. SAMe is a great supplement that helps balance, especially if you have a red comp T, it helps balance this circle of methylation that basically the idea is we're just looking to lower homocysteine levels. And when you lower them and get them into balance, a lot of that addictive personality and those behaviors calm down, because now it's not, your body isn't seeking, that dopamine hit. Exactly. We're balancing serotonin and we're balancing dopamine. And a lot of people come to us after they get on the program and they're like, oh my God, I feel amazing. We're like, you don't feel amazing. You just feel normal. That is what you're supposed to feel like. God did not intend us to feel like shit all the time. We are supposed to be happy. We're supposed to be healthy. We're supposed to be functioning well and not have brain fog and not be depressed and not be sad or not be angry. I mean, again, there's a temper gene in there as well. Yeah. And I can see that in people and go, a lot of times when I see that gene in people, I'm like, wow, you wear such a good mask. Like, it's incredible, some of the people that I think that I know and I don't really know, because they wear such a good mask of like positivity and happiness, and they're, smiling and preaching from the stage, like all this opportunity and amazingness. And then, but deep down, I see that chest, and then deep down, it's like, oh my gosh, you are struggling severely internally. You're just hiding it and masking it so well. And they're like, how do you know that? Like, I see it in the genes. It's super wild.
It's hard to navigate that. I remember I was in a men's group there, late 20s. And one of the guys says to me, like, really, because you don't know how to be. You talk about this mask. Like, I was masked up.
Yeah.
And I was just like, nope, not allowed, stuff it down.
Yeah.
And I've realized, like, anger is amazing, right? And it's something we need to feel. You can't feel one emotion. But one of the things that sparked a thought, like dealing with thyroid, testosterone, you have diabetes, whatever those things are.
Yeah.
Today, when we go to the doctors frequently say, oh yeah, it's in your family history.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that for a second, because everybody in my story that I know has had type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is not genetic.
No.
Thyroid issues, generally speaking, let's just, right? So what is happening in our medical system where doctors are telling people, like, this is DNA? What is that about?
So type 2, you're right about type 2 diabetes. I mean, that's a sugar control issue. So when we see pre-diabetic people all the time, and we're able to reverse it just by, again, simple diet changes and the right supplements. And you can do a slew of different things depending on, how big you may have gotten. During COVID, I actually lost my taste and smell. I had so I lost it for almost 2 months completely. And then when it came back as something called parosmia, which is a distorted taste and smell. So everything tasted and smelled like rotten sewage. So for 18 months, it was like, I had to wear a nose clip to eat,
that's crazy.
It was bad. I also had phantasmia, which is just phantom smells. And so, because it was the rotten sewage thing, I was constantly blaming Gary for farting. It's like, babe. He's like, I swear I didn't. And I'm like, but I smell something. We had moved into a new house, and I thought that something was wrong with the sewage system. So I was constantly having plumbers over, like, don't you smell that? Like, they thought I was nuts. And it was just this stupid COVID thing that happened. So anyway, when I corrected and fixed that, I did my blood because during that period of time, I couldn't eat meat. I couldn't eat vegetables. All of it just made me want to vomit. The only thing that I could eat was some fruit, and carbs seemed to be okay because it was very plain, and then dairy. Like, so if I was going to have like spaghetti and sauce, because I couldn't have a meatball, it couldn't just be red sauce. It had to be cut with Alfredo because it would just calm the sauce down or whatever. I had a horrible diet. I was like surviving on protein shakes. And but what happened is because of all the fruit and the carbs that I'm all of a sudden eating, because I couldn't eat anything else, I all of a sudden went into the pre-diabetic range. My A1C levels were like 5.7, 5.8, like right at the very beginning. But I was like, oh my God, I'm a healthy person. This is not who I am. I can't believe I'm pre-diabetic. This is scary. So I corrected it. I thank God, got the COVID thing under control and got that fixed after 2 years. But then I corrected it by cutting out carbs, cutting out sugar, not eating fruit. And then going, very good fats. I wouldn't say it was keto because I'm not super good at the keto thing, but probably like more paleo like you are. And good salads and healthy oils and seeds and nuts and stuff, avocados. And then I was good and I reversed it. I also took berberine, which is a natural root. That's a supplement that I took to help. Chromium capsules, methionine and acetylcholine. Just like very simple, basic things. Got it right back under control, no problem. But diabetes. If you go to the diabetic website and you look at their food like recommendations, it is like a perfect diet to become diabetic.
Yeah.
They're like, drink some orange juice in the morning, have some granola, throw some brown sugar on it. It's insane what they say to eat on there. I'm like, no, like if anything, have bacon and eggs and some avocado. Like that's a better diet, like better breakfast than having granola or oatmeal and brown sugar. So, no, I think that they want us to be sick. Again, it's sick care, and they're all in bed with one another, and they don't want us to be healthy. So that's why things are packaged up so fancy. And if you look at the labels of this stuff, and it's like all natural, there's nothing natural about having a list this long of words you can't pronounce.
And I discovered something really interesting. If you actually Google what natural flavors are,
It's terrible.
holy shit.
Yeah, it's scary.
Like I had to stop drinking.
Yeah.
I stopped drinking
soda water. I didn't even look at that.
because of Gary.
Oh,
I
really?
was listening to somebody's show or we were having I don't know.
Shoot, I don't even know this part. Tell me.
And it was and he mentioned something about it and he said natural flavors. I went and looked it up. It's like there is poison.
Oh, like LaCroix and
Yeah. Exactly.
And it seems like it's so healthy for you.
Well, I thought because like I'm not a big drinker. I'll have a glass of water.
Yeah.
If I'm out with my friends, we go to a restaurant, like I would go soda water. I don't want a cocktail a week. I got to stay sharp. And I discovered this. I was like heartbroken. It's like even soda water is now tainted. We have nothing.
Yeah.
We can have nothing. We're going to wrap up shortly. I want to go in this from my perspective. When I took control of my health, I felt everything shift.
Good.
My friendships, relationships, family, community, my business, what I'm doing now, everything. I think unfortunately a lot of people measure life through this better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in play better on a table.
Mm-hmm.
But I can measure how did I feel yesterday versus how do I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not saying like
exactly. Yeah. Everything in moderation.
You're gonna die anyway, right? But like you shouldn't die suffering.
Mm-hmm.
I watched my grandmother die. 30 medication, diabetes,
dementia's type 3 diabetes.
She was overweight. Look, a lot of this was her fault. I call it what it is. It's her fault because she chose to go down this path. And sure, we don't have the information we have. Chase God for the internet.
Yeah.
It's serious. Without the YouTubes, I would not probably be the level of health I am. But she was a person who smoked cigarettes on an oxygen machine.
No.
And like you did this. Like, you
gosh.
made this, and I watched.
Yeah.
And
then that's how you grew up as a kid, thinking that's okay.
And that's how I thought it was. And I just want to tell people it doesn't have to.
Right. Break it.
Because your parents suffer, because your brother or sister, you don't have to.
Right.
You have to take. And as I've got deeper in this, things like the testing with you guys, actually, the first time we met was at Ken Jocelyn
Oh,
years
yeah.
ago
In Atlanta?
at
Yeah.
Hotland.
Hot
And I
Atlanta.
did the swab, I did the blood work. You know, I
remember
went
that.
down the path because for me, it felt real. Because I'd done all these other tests, but until you guys, I didn't know about this.
hmm
Like I,
A lot of people don't,
right,
or they pull genes that you can't do any. Again, these are actionable genes. You can take action and correct them. The other ones, it's like, well, what are we going to, okay, great.
I
I
don't
know
care.
that
Like I can do
about your
anything to change
earlobes.
my color. It doesn't-
Right.
Right. And so it's like I went down that path. I got healthier. I'm still always getting healthier.
Awesome.
And I'm in a space of health and maintenance. Take no prescription thing.
hmm
But a lot of it came from the willingness, right? And,
Yes.
and look,
It's a mindset shift.
I'll never sit here and be like it's inexpensive, because your health, however you want to look at it, is worth every penny.
Right.
You got to cancel Netflix for the year and get rid of. I use YouTube Premium just spend money on. Like, but if you have to get rid of these things, go to the Starbucks, get rid of the going out to eat,
Yeah.
do these tests,
So worth it.
and they're a few $100.
Mhm.
Change your life forever.
Well, in the gene test, your genes are never going to change. So you take the test once. It's $5.99 with us. You'll take it once in your life. It's a cheek swap, so you literally get shipped to your house, and you can do it on yourself, for your kids, your family, and then once you mail it back in, the results come back and put together. You know, we put together special protocol per your genes.
Where
So
can they do this? And we'll drop the website.
So if you go to www.10xyourhealth.com, so that's 10xyourhealth.com, that's where you can just immediately order the gene test and it'll get shipped to your house. And then if you want more information on 10x Health, then it's 10xhealthsystem.com. So that's where we'll share more about IV therapy, blood labs, superhuman protocol. We have a really cool superhuman protocol. And then also places where we get a lot of nurses and a lot of doctors and, you know, NPs and PAs that are looking for jobs because they're just so sick of the system. So you can look and see where we're hiring all across the country, and we're franchising. So we are accepted. I think we've got 44 states approved, and we're just getting into, you know, hopefully starting to roll out the franchises here soon. So
Yeah, we need more actual health.
yeah, exactly.
And I want to encourage people.
Because health is wealth. I know, and it's not just about money, but like you're saying, if you feel better when you wake up because you've gotten a good night's sleep and your mind is clear and you're awake and you're happy, then you're going to attack your day differently than if you didn't sleep, you're depressed, you're like dragging yourself out of bed. It's just a whole different mindset shift. And it shouldn't be such a struggle. It shouldn't have to be every day like, I have to do good today. It should just be like, I want to do good. Let's go get this done.
And this is a controllable variable.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if a plane crashes, like you cannot control that.
Right.
Right. But you can control your posture.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And so it's like, yes, do this one time.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you can afford that, do the blood.
Yeah.
Know where you are. And in fact, a lot of the markers for blood work, you just go get your physical. 99.9% of insurance companies are required by state to do your annual physical, covered by your insurance.
Exactly.
Go and then tell your doctor. People have to understand this. Tell your doctor, do all the tests.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible what's actually covered under insurance. And if you do that, you go and cover it. If you go talk to your insurance company, say, I want all these tests, they'll lay out what is actually covered.
Yeah.
And that's what
it's so true. They don't cover certain things that we like to see though, like D3, vitamin D3 deficiencies. We see it all the time, especially in people who have darker skin, because you're not getting in the sun. Also, if we're wearing a lot of sunscreen, hats, covering up, long sleeves, we see D3 deficiency all the time.
Number one cause of.
Yeah. We were called snake oil salesmen when COVID came out, and we were telling people, boost your immune system by taking vitamin C, zinc, and D3 with K2. The K2 part's very important.
Thank you for saying. I was literally about to say.
Yep. I'm not a medical professional, but this is what I know. And, you know, and I literally was told that we were snake oil salesmen. I'm like, oh, that's funny, because we ended up being right. But
I made it almost through the entire COVID experience without I got it at the end.
I got at the very beginning, but we also had an IV clinic. So when people were sick thinking they had the flu, everybody in droves. We had a very popular business right before COVID, like October, November of 2019. We started seeing it, and my whole staff went through it. We all got sick. We just didn't know what it was because we were getting tested for the flu, and they were like, "That's not it. No, it's not pneumonia. We don't really know what it is. You're just sick. Stay home." So we kind of knocked it out of our system, and then we all had the antibodies. We were good to go after that.
And at the end of the day, like, health is everything.
Yeah, it really is.
It's going to change your relationships.
Does
your sex life. It's going to change your bank account.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to change your ability to do a lot of things.
And on the relationship piece, Gary and I have never gotten along better than when we started this process, got on the right protocol. It's funny in our family, we can all tell in each other who's taken their vitamins and who hasn't. Because for me, I might be more snappy at the kids. For him, his ADHD gets out of control and he's bouncing all over the place. For my daughter, she gets a little cranky and I can just tell when she hasn't had her vitamins. So I'm like, hey, everybody take them. 20 minutes later, everybody's happy again. Everybody's calm. Everybody's, got a smile on their face. So it's a non-negotiable in our family. Like, you take your vitamins and that's what we do. So if everybody does that every day, you remember, like, this is what's making me feel better. It's a game changer.
And my thought is, especially if you live in a food desert, like,
yes,
go and get your vitamins, get the right vitamins.
Get the right vitamins.
Your research. If you live in America, you have access to healthcare and capacity advantage of it. Even if you're on government healthcare, there's still there are still annual checkups that are covered by insurance.
Yeah.
So do your research, call your insurance. As we wrap up here, of course, to ask you the famous last question. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for sharing your story. Folks, go to 10xyourhealth.com. Do this test one time.
It's the best test you could ever take in your whole life. I promise.
I don't ever talk about shit I haven't.
Yeah. Thank you.
And so this was a powerful experience. Go through this process, work with your mate, look at my life a couple of years from that moment and feel truly in the best health I've ever been. We
built this business on word of mouth. I mean, in the beginning, Gary and I, we sucked at social media. We didn't have the money to pay for advertising or marketing plans. And every single client we gained was through word of mouth. It was you having a story, feeling better, and sharing that with people you care about. And we still have a very grassroots approach. I mean, we're a bigger company now, certainly, but just by us speaking on stage and on podcasts and sharing our stories has really helped to, like, get the word out and the message that it is, I never say cure, but it is fixable. There are things that can be done to help. So nobody should suffer.
I agree. And that's what think about how bringing this information to the masses, right? And I think, so of course, the last question for you, my friend. What does it mean?
Oh my gosh. Now I got goosebumps because put me on the spot here. To be unbroken. To be unbroken just means caring about yourself in a way it's always going to be about health and mental, and especially mental health in our world is just so important. And it's just about every day waking up and taking those steps to make sure that every day I have to think about not being broken, I guess. So I never want to say, again, like you said, it's not like this is just a fix that works forever. You can take one pill and just make it all go away. Every day I could struggle if I didn't pay attention to what I was doing. So to be unbroken just means paying attention to my health. What am I doing every day to make the right choices for me, my body, for my family, their bodies, and correcting that function so that we don't struggle and we don't have the mental issues that run in my family. So it's super important. I love this message that you share. I love that you share your struggles and you're open and honest with people so that they know that they're not the only ones. I think that's the biggest message that, we can help people with is sharing, like, you're not alone. So
we get help as well.
Health is wealth.
Thank you for being here, my friend.
Thank
Unbroken
you.
Nation, thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, comment, tell a friend. Remember, sharing this and telling someone about it be the reason why we create the change we're seeking. We're all, and until next time, my friend, be unbroken. I'll see you.